are so excited. We are here with the Brixton Bard, Alex Wheatle, for our second interview.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you so much for joining us
Thank
today,
you.
Alex.
No problem. Yeah.
For people who haven't read Straight Outta Crongton, can you tell us a little bit about it, maybe without giving away, because you know I'm that close to the end. Don't give away the ending for me.
Okay, it's about a young lady called Mo Baker.
Yeah.
She lives at home with her mother. Her mother has some issues from her past that she hasn't quite resolved yet.
Yeah.
And her mother has very bad choices in men. And so the man she shackled up at the moment does not get on with Mo. In fact, he's quite violent towards her. And so in the household, it's only Mo, the mother, and the boyfriend who comes in now and again. And they have an incident where Mo is pushed quite violently and so on. And so she's advised by one of her very good school friends, Elaine, to report this to the police because she says no man should be laying their hand on you. So she does that, but she cannot quite go through with it because she really kind of loves the mum, really. She doesn't want to disappoint her or let her down emotionally. But obviously the police have to go and check this out, so they do. And so this escalates into Mo feeling that her mother doesn't quite love her, doesn't have her best interests at heart. And this leads to Mo actually leaving home. She shacks up with her best friend Elaine, and she has a boyfriend, and he gets involved in this feud, if you like, that Mo has. And so then it's a story of revenge. It's a story of revenge, and should she or shouldn't she?
Yeah.
But she has good people around her, giving her good advice. She has two best friends who try to help her along the way, try to give her all kinds of advice. And really, for me, it's a teenage female story. I've always wanted to write from a female perspective. So I had to mine my own daughter's memories and histories to try and get it correct. And it's the female's mind is fascinating. By the way. Oh my God, it's fascinating. Inspiration. There's a lot that inspires me.
Yeah.
Film, books, theatre. I think with this one, the art form that kicked it off was a movie, and it was called Baby Boy.
Okay.
You remember you probably both know him, Tyrese. He was in a film called Baby Boy, and he is his mother. He lives with his mother, single mother, and she's got his boyfriend, and he doesn't get on with the boyfriend.
Yeah.
And so that's what inspired me. I thought, what if there's a girl in that situation with that scenario? Because that story is not often told about a young lady trying to get on with her mother's boyfriend or father's girlfriend or whatever it may be. That narrative is very rarely told. So I thought, maybe there's room here for me to create something. And so, and also when you have inner city stories, it always seems to be male dominated or told from a male perspective. And when I created Crongton, I wanted to include everybody, not just 15, 16, 17-year-old males. I thought, well, women live there too, daughters live there too, so their narratives are just as valuable, just as interesting and fascinating, so why can't I do this?
Very good.
Yeah.
I'm really glad you did.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was so lovely that you can write from this 15-year-old girl's perspective. So, when you were 15, what kind of books were you reading?
Oh Lord, not too many actually. I think I was more of a comic person back then. I mean, before that, before I reached my teens, I was into Robin Hood. I was into Ivanhoe. I was into Huckleberry Finn. But then
stories.
Football and cricket took over,
Obviously.
and so I always had a Beano jutting out of my back pocket, or a Whizzer and Chips, or a Dandy. So that was my thing, and I love those comic strip tales of the Bash Street Kids, Dennis the Menace, Minnie the Minx, and so I love those. I love those. And I think maybe that's why I'm so interested in dialogue, because you've got to make it punchy, and I try to steer clear from the BBC English kind of dialogue thing.
Yeah, the language you use, we love the language you use. It's absolutely.
So I try to be very creative with that.
Yeah, it's really creative. It reminds me of Clockwork Orange.
Yeah. Yes, that's one of my inspirations too.
It?
Yes, without a doubt.
Oh, cool.
In fact, when I was in Manchester the other day, we had an event at the Anthony Centre, which is not too far from university. Manchester University, we had an event there.
Yeah.
So that was so cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
It reminded, I've been teaching at Warwick for the last couple of years, and we've been teaching Sam Sullivan's Lonely Londoners.
All right, yeah.
And the way he plays with that kind of language and creates his own sort of, the kids often call it a creolized sort of English.
Yeah.
You're doing this.
And I'm doing the same kind of thing, I believe. And
You are.
it's a joy to create because it's not just taken from the mouths of kids who I meet on the bus. It's taken from everywhere.
Yeah.
All the inspiration, what I can absorb.
It's very poetic,
It is
the book,
really
actually.
poetic.
And I think I've mentioned this to you before, Mel, that I love film noir.
Yeah.
I love the rhythm of the language used.
Yeah,
Raymond
I can see
Chandler,
that.
it's incredible. In fact, the 30s and 40s, the dialogue in some of those films, and the 50s indeed, it's just amazing. And I would advise any writer, if you're interested in writing good dialogue, to look at those films because they really inspired me. It made me want to play around with language and create and so on.
You can definitely see
So-
glimpses of
You
that.
can.
in
So,
this book.
and sometimes people fail to see it, that people think it's all urban. No, it's not.
No.
No, it's not at all. There's
not.
there's inspirations from every art
Yeah.
form in there.
Within your book,
Yeah.
is there a character you identify with?
Mm.
It could be the world of Crongton, maybe, or within.
All the female characters, actually.
Really?
I think there's some of me in all of them. With Mo, there's a sense of outrage, there's a sense of injustice. With Elaine, there's a sense of duty, there's a sense of mothering, if you like, looking after her chicks.
Yes.
And with Naomi, there's a sense of adventure
Yeah.
and excitement.
Yeah.
So, and that's me as well.
Yeah.
I think sometimes when you create a character, they can be too one tone, or
Yeah.
So I like to create characters that they could fizz off each other.
Yeah.
They do push
have
up
this
against
great
each other
banter and-
really well.
I have to say, I relate most with Granny Jackson.
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah.
She's a
That's
voice
like-
of reason.
Yeah. No, that's.
She's a voice of
that's
reason.
She might be my favourite
She's
character.
totally a character. Or
Yeah.
Manjaro.
Yes.
And again, I tried to make her human, even though she's his voice of reason. She has a past that
She does.
that is
she
racy
does.
as well.
Oh, she
And
does
why
have
not?
a saucy past, Granny Jackson.
And why not? Give her a racy pass. I thought, no, I'm not going to just have her go to
No.
church and
No.
marry a husband and,
No.
no. I thought, let's give her a racy pass. Why
Good
not?
for you.
Yes.
Granny Jackson
Yeah.
deserves a bit of
Yeah, she does.
Yes. Sauce.
a bit of sauce in her past.
But also, I also wanted, because I'm a bit weary of all those narratives where, those white saviour narratives.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to surround Mo with really positive
Yeah.
characters of colour.
Oh, yeah.
And that was very important for me
Yeah.
when I'm writing a narrative about a white 15-year-old
Yeah.
teenager. That was also very important to me. That many of the characters of colour did have a positive
Absolutely.
Yeah.
impact on her.
So, just talking about positivity, I love the relationship between the sisterins. And like you say, they all bounced off each other. They all had different things to contribute. Out of all the characters in the book, who do you think you would be? Who do you think your best friend would be? Out of the...
Oh, me. I'm going back to when I was 15, by the way.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Fine.
it would probably be Naomi.
Really?
Because I was quite adventurous as well.
Oh, you
So
look out for it.
yeah, it would probably be Naomi. I'd probably want to hang around with her because she'd
Bit of
probably lead me down some wild road or
Bit
white
of cheeky
path.
shoplifting.
Yeah, so, and
15-year-old.
yeah, 14, 15, I was kind of more like her than
Yeah.
the other two.
Yeah. How about you?
She would be a cool best friend.
She would be a cool best friend. I think I would like Manjaro as my friend.
You
I
would?
did agree with you on that front.
Because he'll keep you safe, but also keep you healthy.
I
Get
did.
some green
I
juice.
kind of did like. I'm kind of gonna go with you,
I
Manjaro.
love
true.
Manjaro.
I
He's
do,
one of the best
yeah.
characters. Granny Jackson and Manjaro are my
Three
favourites.
girls. Who would be your best friend?
I think Elaine. She's so sensible.
Yeah.
She is, but I was always the sensible
Oh,
one
really?
in my friend group, so I wonder if Elaine
if
and I
you-
would butt heads.
Yeah.
Which makes me think it might have been Mo.
Mo. Yeah.
Because I would have been inspired by her kind of passion
Yeah.
and her drive for change and her kind of indignation at the things
Yeah.
that are wrong in the world.
Yeah.
In her
But
world.
sometimes we forget, though, that I know, especially with young boys, there's always an alpha male who
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
buzz around. But also in females too, you have that.
We
Yeah.
do.
And I think Elaine's
Yeah,
that.
she is.
She's
She's-
quite protective.
Yeah, she's got a
And-
very strong family.
Yeah, very strong family. So she's got
She's
good.
incredibly
She mothers
positivity
the girls
around
out.
her.
Yeah, she
So-
does have a lot of positivity around her.
Yeah,
She would be an ace.
I think she'd be an amazing
She'd always
best
have your
friend.
back.
She would always have your back.
She would.
And her family is amazing as well. So
All of the narratives, and talking about Elaine and kind of her, the advice she gives and the guidance she gives. What advice would you give to your teenage self?
what advice would I give to my teenage self? Wow. I mean, I had such a hard time as a teenager. I mean, I grew up in care. And so really what I wanted was someone to trust in, someone to love, or someone to love me.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a girlfriend, but just somebody,
Yeah.
somebody around who
And
could
Elaine.
just, you know,
And
just put
Elaine
their
as
arms
well.
around me and say, Alex, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And so I think maybe I would advise that, hey, it will happen. You know, someone will come into your life and
Yeah.
look after you and be there for you, and just like Elaine is for her,
yeah.
for Mo and Naomi. So I think, I would have said, just calm down, Alex. Just calm down.
You know, I think
Everything's
that's
gonna be okay.
Is
really
yes,
good
I know you
advice
hate the
for all
world.
teenagers.
I know you hate the world, but
Yeah.
someone will come along and they will love you for who you are. So, yeah.
Good advice.
Yeah. That is lovely.
Because
So-
no, but it's quite a really serious point
Powerful.
because
Yeah.
in my work I come across, because I used to be a youth worker, I come
Yeah.
across so many young people who feel the same way as I did, and they feel that no one's out there for them,
Yeah.
and that makes them vulnerable
Yeah.
to all kinds of other things,
Yeah, making bad choices. Like
making bad
like
choices.
Mo's mum.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that advice, though, I think kind of resonates with, because for teenagers, everything is so het up.
Yeah.
Everything is so intense because your world is quite narrow.
Yeah.
Really, at that
Especially if
age.
you
And
feel
it's-
marginalised or you don't feel part of
Definitely.
the status quo. I think
definitely.
it's
Yeah,
important to know that, irrespective of what people think of you or how you feel people think of you at that age, that these things pass.
Yeah, they do.
to my Steinbeck. Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
Steinbeck. He's one of my favourite writers, East of Eden.
Yeah.
And when you sum it up, I think there's an extract that I love from that book, which talks about how much damage the unloved of this world can create, and that theme runs through all my fiction. All my
Yeah.
fiction, from Bricks and Rock
Yeah.
to Straight Outta Crongton. Yeah, and it's so apt for today. I think how
Yes.
much chaos that
Yeah.
can cause if you grow up feeling unloved.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where Mo's rage comes from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to give too much away about the book, but her relationship, her mum's relationship with the father, and
And these are real issues that young people have to do with today, and I don't think writers should shy away
No.
from them. And no, people don't call it literature, but what I find in a lot of YA writing is that we actually brave enough to address these issues,
Yeah.
rather than skirt around
I
it
think
or
that's an argument that needs to be made, that YA is a field of
definitely,
a lot of different things, but it has a literature.
definitely.
And
Yeah.
it has kind of the poppy sort of feel-good books, but it also has
Has-
books like
yeah,
these that are
yeah.
just as hard-hitting and
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
Beautifully
as
written.
important and beautifully written as Booker Prize shortlisted novels. And
yeah, I agree.
we've got to stop pushing it
Yeah,
to the side.
denigrating them and-
Yeah, definitely.
It's
I've had adults reading the Crongton series, and they love it just as much as
We're-
anything
we're-
they've read.
We're adults.
yeah.
We loved
Of
it.
course, yeah.
I know we don't look it, but we're genuine adults. We loved it. I loved it.
I'm-
I know that my adult friends
Yeah.
would love it. Going back to the questions, I really liked what you said about writing really positive black characters
Yeah.
and showing a bit of positivity in relationships. And I know I've asked you this question before, but I'm gonna ask it again. How important is representation for you as a writer, but also thinking of when you were a reader as well, and thinking of your readers.
Representation for me is crucial, and it can come in any what's sort of what I'm looking for. It can come in any form, if you like. I mean, representation doesn't have to mean a gangster roaming around in the Crongton estate. Representation can mean, for example, Mo's boyfriend's mum. You know, just talking about the mirror, the shattered mirror. And she's just a bus driver, and why should not come out from her mouth? And so instances like that are very important to me, because we have to impress upon our readership, and hopefully my readership will be very diverse, white, black, brown, or whatever, that actually in an estate like North or South Crongton, we're not all in this barrel trying to get to the top and pushing people down. There's actually some very positive role models in there doing their best to try and improve children's lives and try to give them really good, strong pieces of advice and offering shoulders to cry on, and you know, just being protective and supportive in that way. And for me, for readership that I'm going for, that's crucial. That's crucial, that we're not just seen as potentially violent, we're not just seen as potentially angry, we're not just seen as negative. So I just wanted to really impress on the readership for the Crongton series that, hey, you know, goodness can come in all shapes and sizes. Like in the first book, a little bit, Lamar finds himself in a very dangerous part of North Crongton, and he finds refuge in a Muslim's family home. They offer him a glass of water, they ask if he's okay, and so on. I mean, he does run away, but you know, at least that space is there where he feels safe and unthreatened, if you like. You know, and I think that's really important for readers to discover.
Definitely.
Yes.
Even in Crongton Nights, they're out of the estate, and they get into my characters get into a taxi. But before that, they're offered a taxi ride by this guy. He's Asian, he's got a long beard and so on, and he's saying, you know, you can come into my cab. And they're not quite sure, But they go into another person's cab who's well dressed, clean shaven and so on, and they get themselves in difficulties. So it just goes to show that sometimes what is presented as safe, sometimes is not so. And I think it's important that we put that in our fiction.
Absolutely. I think so as well.
It's an incredibly important narrative, I think, just with the world the way it is today.
Especially with, like you say, what seems safe
Exactly.
isn't. And I think it's really important that teenagers, adolescents, kind of get that
Can
narrative.
understand that, you know, appearances aren't always what they seem. And we can't take something at face value.
And also, I wanted to address the fact that most young people, they're threatened inside the family home. That's where most cases of abuse occur. Not by the bogeyman waiting on the corner. No. Even though the press might sometimes report it that way. But the fact is, well over 90% of abuse cases, whether it's sexual or violent or whatever, happens in the family home. Or happens, it's perpetrated by somebody in your family circle. So this is why I think the Mo story with her mum's boyfriend is so important.
And also showing an alternative of what they can do. You know, you've got friends that you can go to, etc., etc. I think that's really important to show that.
Right. As you know, we are reading Straight Outta Crongton with our reading groups this summer. If you were at those reading groups with us, what's one question you would hope we might ask the teenagers?
Oh, God, that's a hard one. I'd hope they'd ask.
Or what do you want to ask them might be a better way.
I'd probably ask them some of the questions you asked me. I think I'd ask them, I don't know the demographic of your reading group, but I'd ask them. I mean, what I really pride myself on is it's a camaraderie, the banter. I mean,
very funny book.
Sometimes when you come across these types of narratives, you can get too over preachy, too over serious.
Yes, you
but
can.
in all my instances, in all my experiences, you know, when I was going through a tough time in Brixton, you know, as a teenager, yes, at times I was on my knees, you know, sobbing, oh, what's happening to me? But you know what? It was humour that brought me up again.
Yeah.
Banter, humour,
Yeah.
friends ribbing me and so
Yeah.
on. That lifted me up, lifted me up again. And sometimes storytellers forget that to inject
Yeah.
some humour, and so it's bearable. You can make your life
you can-
bearable and tolerable. You know,
Totally.
without that, it just you turn over each page, bleep, bleep, bleep. It's like banging your head against the wall.
Yeah.
But if you inject it with humour, I think you're going to engage the reader that much
Totally.
more, and
Yeah.
also make your characters more human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can absolutely see that throughout the book.
There's so many.
There's
Great.
Yeah.
Little.
Can you tell us a bit about your upcoming projects? What have you got lined up next?
The fourth Crongton novel, because I've already mentioned that Naomi is one of my favourite characters. So,
Yeah.
I've just completed her backstory,
Oh, yeah.
so there's that to look forward to.
Oh, that's exciting.
That is exciting.
I feel like she is the one with the most mystery.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that'll be really cool.
Yeah, so I'm writing her story 6 months a year before she comes to Crongton.
Okay.
Just living in a children's home
Yeah.
and all the issues she has,
Yeah.
and the friend she has. Well, she's living in Ashburton, which is 10 or 15 miles north of Crongton.
Mhm.
So and so I've really enjoyed writing her
Yeah.
story, and she's got some serious drama to deal with.
I can
I'm not gonna let on
imagine
now.
that. I can imagine
But
that Naomi
she has
would
to
get
go
on
through.
that
I'm putting her
mystery.
through the
Girl.
mix.
So
Yeah.
much
You know,
mystery.
poor Naomi. I'm putting her through so much.
Oh,
But
bless
she's
her.
got her
So-
sisterins coming, so we know
Yes.
that everything is going to
Yes.
be okay.
The
Yeah.
girls.
So I've just finished that. So I'll be editing that with my editor sometime this summer or in the fall.
So we can look for that early next
So
year, maybe?
maybe April, this time next year, April,
Oh,
May
fab.
next year.
That's really good.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Right, we have the difficult question now.
Okay.
If you were trapped on a deserted
Mhm.
island, what 3 books of any kind would you want to have with you on the island?
Okay. I'd have to have C. L.R. James, The Black Jacobins,
Okay.
because that is a book that changed my life. That told me I wanted to be a writer.
Mm.
You know, the French, the revolution, the slave revolution in Haiti, that just inspired me. And I kept on asking, how comes they did not teach me this at school?
Yeah.
You know. And then I'd have, there's so many, it's such a hard question.
I know, it's so
Um,
we're sorry.
I'd go for, there's so many Chester Himes crime books I
Yeah.
could go for, but I'm going to go for Richard Wright, Native Son,
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
because that really affected me, being a black male going through the whole Brixton thing on the late 1970s,
Yeah.
1980s, where we were perceived as criminal even before you
Yeah.
open your mouth.
Yeah.
So that book really moved me a lot. And I'd want some entertainment, I think, some erotic novel.
Yeah,
And this is something that might surprise people. Connie McCulloch, The Thornbirds.
Oh, what?
Yeah, I'd have that. Why not?
Some sexy priests
Yeah,
on the
some
island.
sexy priests and virgins. Yeah, why not? Yeah, I'd have that too.
Edification and entertainment.
Yep, I like it. It's a
You're
good
sorted.
combination.
Yeah.
So we will just finish on some recommendations. Can you recommend a YA book for us?
Oh dear. David Owen, what was his last book? The Fallen Children. It's already been published, but it's a fantastic, fantastic book.
What did you like about it?
Just it reminded me of one of those 60s kind of. What was that film I saw? Oh God, I'm going senile. You have to excuse me. But it's just a great narrative of all these girls just discovering that they're pregnant.
Yeah.
You know, without no warning, no.
Yeah.
And you just got to read the rest of it.
Yes,
It's-
no,
it's-
don't tell us
it's a
anything. I
great
haven't
novel,
read it, so yeah.
So
I
David
haven't
Owen.
read it, but
This
I want to now.
this has been
Yeah.
great for well, not that great
No.
for bank balances. We just want to say thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Alex. That
Thank
was
you.
absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. Everyone
Thank
read
you
the
for having me.
book.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Great.